6 months had passed since the Light of Illumination ceremony, and David Rivers was no longer the same man who had stumbled upon a crashed alien ship. He stood at the window of his new office in the Global Interspecies Relations Center, watching. Human and luminary engineers worked together on the construction of the first joint space exploration vessel. The view still amazed him. Humans and aliens working side by side, sharing knowledge and tools, building something that neither species could have created alone. It was everything Princess Lyra had dreamed of when she first came to Earth. "David, the morning briefing is about to start," called his assistant Riley from the doorway. Even after all these months, people still spoke to him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Everyone knew he was the human who had been changed by alien light, and that made him something special in their eyes. David made his way to the briefing room, where representatives from both species gathered every day to coordinate their joint projects. As he walked through the halls, he could sense the emotions of everyone around him. Excitement from the young scientists, concern from the military officials, and a general sense of wonder that still filled most people when they encountered something truly alien. The Light of Illumination had indeed changed him permanently, just as Lyra had warned. He could see energy patterns that were invisible to other humans, feel the connections between living things, and sense emotions in a way that sometimes felt overwhelming. But he had learned to control these abilities, and they had made him uniquely qualified for his new role. "Good morning, everyone," David said as he entered the briefing room. Around the table sat a mix of humans and luminari, all working together on various projects that would have been impossible just a year ago. "David, we have an update from Princess Lyra," said Ambassador Zephyr, his musical voice carrying a note of excitement. "She has successfully convinced the High Council to approve the next phase of our cooperation." David felt his heart skip a beat at the mention of Lyra's name. Even though they communicated regularly through quantum transmissions, he missed her presence, missed their long conversations about music and philosophy and the future of both their species. "What's the next phase?" asked Dr. Chen, who had become the lead scientist on the joint research projects. "A shared exploration mission to the outer rim of the galaxy. 3 ships, mixed crews from both species, searching for new worlds and new forms of life. Princess Lyra will personally lead the Luminari contingent." David felt a wave of excitement wash over him. "When do we leave?" "In 3 weeks. And David, you've been specifically requested to serve as the human cultural liaison for the mission. Princess Lyra insisted that your unique perspective would be invaluable for first contact with any new species we might encounter." After the briefing, David walked out to the launch pad where the 3 ships were nearing completion. They were beautiful vessels, combining human engineering with luminary technology in ways that created something entirely new. The ships looked like they were alive, their hulls flowing in organic curves that seemed to pulse with inner light. "Impressive, aren't they?" said a familiar voice behind him. David turned around to see Captain Mitchell, his old commanding officer, walking up to join him. The captain looked older but happier than David remembered, and there was pride in his eyes as he looked at his former soldier. "They're incredible, sir. Hard to believe that 6 months ago most people thought aliens were just science fiction. Hard to believe that 6 months ago you were just a regular sergeant who followed orders," Captain Mitchell replied with a smile. "Now look at you. The first human to receive alien consciousness, the bridge between 2 species, about to explore the unknown reaches of space. Sometimes I feel like I'm living in a dream," David admitted. "Like I'm going to wake up and find myself back in my old barracks, and none of this will have happened." "But you wouldn't change it, would you?" David thought about that question. His life had become complicated in ways he never could have imagined. He often felt isolated from regular humans because his enhanced perceptions made him experience the world so differently. He carried responsibilities that sometimes felt too heavy for one person to bear. And yet, "No, sir, I wouldn't change any of it," Every day I get to help build something bigger than myself, something that will benefit both our species for generations to come. The next 3 weeks flew by in a blur of final preparations, training sessions, and equipment checks. David spent hours learning about the ship's systems, studying star charts of unexplored regions, and preparing for the possibility of encountering entirely new forms of life. The night before departure, he received a personal message from Princess Lyra. Her image appeared on his communication screen, and even through the quantum transmission, her presence filled his small quarters with warmth. "David, my friend," she said, her violet eyes bright with excitement. "Tomorrow we begin the greatest adventure of our lives. Together, we will explore worlds that no one from either of our species has ever seen. We will carry the hopes and dreams of billions of beings as we search for new life, new knowledge, new possibilities for cooperation and understanding. I can't wait to see you again, Lyra. It feels like years since we've been in the same room. For my people, 6 months is barely a moment. But you humans have taught me that even brief separations can feel like eternities when you care about someone. I have missed our conversations, our debates about music and art and the meaning of existence. I've missed them too, and I've been thinking about what you said, about how humans burn brightly because our lives are so short. I think I understand it better now." "How so?" David paused, trying to put his thoughts into words. "The light of illumination showed me that every moment is connected to every other moment, that every choice we make ripples out through the universe. Knowing that makes each decision feel more important, more meaningful. It doesn't matter that human lives are brief if we use that time to make the universe a little brighter." Lyra's face lit up with joy. "That is exactly what I hoped you would understand. You have learned to see with luminary eyes while keeping your human heart. That combination will serve us well in the challenges ahead." Launch day arrived with perfect weather and clear skies. David stood on the bridge of the lead ship, wearing a uniform that combined elements from both human and Luminari design. Around him, the mixed crew made final preparations for departure. Through the view screen, he could see crowds of people gathered to watch the launch. Humans and Luminari stood together, waving and cheering as the ships prepared to leave for the unknown. Children held signs with messages of good luck in both languages, and David could feel the hope and excitement radiating from the crowd. "All systems green," reported the navigation officer, a young Luminari woman whose skin glowed softly in the bridge lights. "We are ready for departure." "Princess Lyra, this is David. All ships reporting ready." "Acknowledged, David. Today we make history together." Initiating departure sequence in 3, 2, 1. The ship lifted off smoothly, rising through Earth's atmosphere toward the stars. David watched his home planet shrink below them, a blue and white marble suspended in the darkness of space. But he didn't feel sad about leaving. Instead, he felt excited about the future, about the wonders they would discover together. As they passed through the outer edge of the solar system, Princess Lyra's ship pulled alongside theirs. Through the view screen, David could see her on her own bridge, and when their eyes met across the void of space, both of them smiled. "So, my friend," Lyra's voice came through the communication system, "are you ready to explore the universe, with you as my partner?" "I'm ready for anything," David replied. And as the 3 ships engaged their faster-than-light drives and leaped into the unknown, David knew that his choice to save a dying alien princess had led to this moment, the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure among the stars. The universe was vast and full of wonders waiting to be discovered. And thanks to the friendship between a human soldier and an alien princess, 2 species would explore it together, proving that compassion and understanding could bridge any gap, no matter how wide. David Rivers had saved 1 life, and in return, he had helped open the entire galaxy to his people. It was, he thought as they raced toward distant stars, a pretty good trade. David thought Tuesday morning would be just like any other day at work. He grabbed his coffee, sat down at his computer, and started typing code like he had done for the past 3 years. As a software engineer, his life was pretty routine. Wake, up, go to work, fix bugs, go home, repeat. Nothing exciting ever happened in his small cubicle on the 5th floor. But everything changed when his boss, Mr. Johnson, walked over with a serious look on his face. He was carrying a thick brown folder that had red stamps all over it. David had never seen anything like it before. "David, I need to talk to you," Mr. Johnson said quietly. "Follow me to conference room B." David's heart started beating faster. Was he in trouble? Had he made a mistake on the Peterson project? His mind raced with possibilities as they walked down the long hallway. The conference room was at the end of the building, far away from everyone else. Inside the room, Mr. Johnson closed the door and pulled down the blinds. The room felt cold and serious. There was a large table in the middle and nothing else except blank white walls. "David, what I'm about to tell you cannot leave this room," his boss said, sliding the folder across the table. "You've been selected for a special project. Project Aurora." David opened the folder with shaky hands. The papers inside had words like classified and top secret stamped everywhere. He couldn't believe what he was reading. This was like something from a movie, not his boring office job. "You'll be working with a special consultant," Mr. Johnson continued. "She's different, very different. But I need you to keep an open mind." "What do you mean, different?" David asked, but his boss was already heading toward the door. "She'll be here in 5 minutes. Just remember, this project is important for our country, maybe for the whole world." David sat alone in the quiet room, staring at the papers. His hands were sweating, and he couldn't focus on the words anymore. What kind of consultant needed this much security? Why was everything so secret? Then the door opened. David looked up, expecting to see another person in a business suit. Instead, he saw someone who made his mouth drop open. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, with skin that looked like liquid silver. It wasn't gray or metallic, but it seemed to glow softly under the ceiling lights. Her hair was long and white, flowing, like water down her shoulders. But it was her eyes that made David forget how to breathe. They were large and deep blue, like looking into the ocean from space. When she looked at him, he felt like she could see right into his thoughts. "Hello, David," she said with a smile. Her voice was unlike anything he'd ever heard. It was musical, like someone singing without trying to sing. "My name is Zara. I understand you'll be helping me with something very important." David tried to speak, but no words came out. He just sat there staring like a fish out of water. This couldn't be real. People didn't look like this. Her skin actually sparkled when she moved. "Are you okay?" Zara asked, tilting her head to one side. "You look confused." I'm sorry," David finally managed to say. "It's just, you're not what I expected." Zara laughed, and the sound filled the room like music. "I get that a lot when I meet humans. For the first time. Don't worry, you'll get used to it." "Humans?" David repeated, his voice cracking. "What do you mean, humans?" Zara sat down across from him at the table. When she moved, David noticed her clothes looked normal, just regular pants and a shirt. But somehow they seemed to fit her differently than clothes fit other people. "David, I'm not from Earth," she said simply, like she was talking about the weather. "I'm from a planet called Kepler, very far away from here. My people sent me here to work with your people on some important technology." David felt dizzy. The room seemed to spin around him. "You're saying you're an alien?" "I prefer the term interplanetary visitor," Zara said with another musical laugh. "But yes, I suppose that's what you would call me." David put his head in his hands. This had to be a dream, or maybe someone was playing a huge prank on him. Aliens weren't real. They were just in movies and comic books. I know this is a lot to take in, Zara said gently. When my people first told me I would be working with a human, I was nervous too. But I've been studying your species for months, and I'm very excited to finally meet you. Studying our species? David looked up at her. How long have you been here? About 6 months, Zara replied. I've been learning about human culture, your technology, your way of life. It's all very fascinating. You have such interesting ways of doing things. David stared at her, trying to process what she was saying. 6 months ago, he was complaining about his boring job. Now he was sitting across from someone from another planet who had been watching humans like they were interesting. Animals at a zoo. What kind of technology? He asked, surprised by his own curiosity. Zara's eyes lit up literally. They seemed to glow brighter when she got excited. We have developed systems that could help solve many of Earth's problems. Clean energy, faster communication, better computers. But our technology needs to be adapted to work with human systems. That's where you come in. Why me? David asked. I'm just a regular programmer. I fix bugs and write basic software. Nothing special. That's exactly why they chose you, Zara said, leaning forward. You think like a typical human. You see problems the way most of your people see them. We need that perspective to make our technology work for everyone, not just scientists and experts. David felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. Part of him wanted to run out of the room and pretend this never happened, but another part of him was curious about what Zara could teach him. Is this really happening? He asked quietly. Zara reached across the table and gently touched his hand. Her skin felt warm and smooth, more real than anything he'd ever experienced. It's really happening, David, and I think we're going to do amazing things together. Looking into her glowing eyes, David realized his boring life had just become the most extraordinary adventure he could never have imagined. The first week working with Zara was the strangest week of David's life. Every morning he would wake up wondering if yesterday had been a crazy dream. But then he would walk into the special lab they had set up for their project, and there she would be, her silver skin glowing softly under the lights, studying human technology with the excitement of a child on Christmas morning. David couldn't help but stare at her. He tried not to, but it was impossible. She moved differently than humans, more gracefully, like she was floating instead of walking. When she concentrated on something, her eyes would glow brighter, and sometimes her skin would shimmer in patterns that reminded him of water ripples. You're watching me again, Zara said one morning without looking up from her computer screen. David's face turned red. Sorry, I don't mean to. It's just, this is all still hard to believe. Zara turned around in her chair and smiled at him. It's okay. I watch you too. Humans do such interesting things without even realizing it. Like what? David asked, genuinely curious. Like right now, she said, pointing at his hands. You're nervous, so you're tapping your fingers on the desk. On my planet, we don't have nervous habits like that. We just feel the emotion and let it pass. But humans express feelings through their bodies in such creative ways. David looked down at his hands and realized she was right. He had been tapping without even knowing it. You don't get nervous? Not the way you do, Zara explained. We experience emotions differently, more like colors that wash over us than feelings that make us want to move or fidget. As the days went by, David started to relax around Zara. She never made him feel stupid when he asked basic questions about her technology, and she seemed genuinely interested in learning about human ways of doing things. One afternoon, David was trying to explain how human computer coding worked. Zara watched him type, her head tilted to one side like a curious bird. Why do you make it so complicated? She asked. Your code has so many extra steps. David stopped typing and looked at her. What do you mean? On my planet, we think the command and the computer understands, But you have to write everything out step by step, like you're talking to someone who's never used a computer before. Well, computers are pretty dumb, David said with a laugh. They only do exactly what you tell them to do. Zara's eyes lit up with that familiar glow. But that's beautiful. You have to be so precise, so careful with your words. It's like poetry, but with logic. David had never thought of coding as poetry before. To him, it was just work, just a way to solve problems. But seeing Zara's excitement made him look at his own skills in a new way. "Show me your way," he said. Zara touched the computer screen with her finger, and suddenly the screen filled with symbols that looked like musical notes mixed with mathematical equations. As she moved her finger, the symbols danced and changed, creating patterns that were somehow both logical and artistic. "This is how we communicate with our machines," she explained. "We think in concepts, and the technology translates our thoughts into actions." David watched in amazement. "That's incredible. It would take me hours to write code that does what you just did in seconds." "But your way has something mine doesn't," Zara said thoughtfully. "What's that?" "Heart," she replied. "Every line of code you write shows how your mind works, how you solve problems, how you think about the world. My way is efficient, but your way is personal. It's uniquely human." That afternoon, they discovered something unexpected. When David wrote code the human way and Zara added her alien technology to it, something magical happened. The programs they created were better than either of their methods alone. David's logical, step-by-step thinking combined with Zara's intuitive approach created software that was both powerful and elegant. "We make a good team," Zara said, as they watched their latest program run perfectly on the first try. David smiled. "Yeah, we do." But it wasn't just their work that was improving. David found himself looking forward to coming to work in ways he never had before. Zara's enthusiasm for everything was contagious. She would get excited about the most ordinary things that David had stopped noticing years ago. One day, it started raining while they were working. David groaned and complained about having to drive home in bad weather. But Zara ran to the window and pressed her face against the glass, watching the water droplets race down the surface. "Look how each drop follows a different path," she said, with wonder in her voice. "They all start from the same place, but they each find their own way down. It's like watching 1,000 tiny adventures happening at once." David joined her at the window. He had seen rain thousands of times, but he had never really looked at it the way Zara was looking at it now. "On your planet, doesn't it rain? We have something similar, but it's very organized. Each drop falls in exactly the right place, at exactly the right time. There's no chaos, no surprises." She turned to him with those glowing eyes. "I love how unpredictable everything is here. You never know what's going to happen next." David realized that Zara wasn't just teaching him about alien technology. She was teaching him how to see his own world with fresh eyes. Things he had taken for granted or found annoying were actually small miracles happening every day. "Zara," he said quietly, "thank you." "For what?" "For reminding me that ordinary things can be extraordinary." She smiled, and for the first time, since they started working together, David didn't see her as an alien. He saw her as a friend who happened to come from very far away. 2 months into the project, things started getting complicated. David noticed that some of his co-workers were acting strange around Zara. They would stop talking when she walked by, whisper to each other when they thought she couldn't hear, and avoid making eye contact with her during meetings. At first, David thought maybe they were just curious about her unusual appearance. But then he overheard a conversation in the break room that made his blood boil. "I don't trust her," said Peterson from accounting. "How do we know she's really here to help us? What if this is all some kind of trick?" "And what's with David?" added another voice. "He spends way too much time with that thing. It's not natural. David felt his hands clench into fists. How dare they call Zara that thing? She had been nothing but kind and helpful to everyone, even when they treated her like she didn't belong. The situation got worse during a team meeting. The following week, Dr. Williams, the project director, was reviewing their progress when he made a comment that stung. Perhaps we should consider having Zara work with someone else, he suggested, not looking directly at her. David might be getting too attached to provide objective feedback on the technology. David felt his face get hot. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're defending her ideas even when they don't make sense for human applications, Dr. Williams replied coldly. This is science, not friendship camp. Zara had been sitting quietly during the exchange, but David could see the hurt in her glowing eyes. Her skin had lost some of its usual shimmer, looking duller than he'd ever seen it. With respect, sir, David said, trying to keep his voice steady, Zara's ideas have improved our success rate by 40%. The friendship we've built helps us communicate better, which makes the work better. Isn't that what we want? Dr. Williams frowned. What we want is results, not emotional complications. After the meeting, David found Zara sitting alone in their lab, staring out the window. She looked smaller somehow, less bright than usual. Are you okay? David asked, pulling up a chair next to her. I knew this would happen eventually, Zara said quietly. It always does when our species meet new people. Fear makes them suspicious, and suspicion makes them cruel. They're not all like that, David said, though he felt angry at his colleagues for proving her point. I know, Zara replied. You're not. But sometimes I wonder if I made a mistake coming here. Maybe my people were right. Maybe I should have stayed home where everything was safe and predictable. David had never seen Zara look so sad before. Her usual joy seemed dimmed, like someone had turned down the brightness on her entire being. It broke his heart to see her this way. You didn't make a mistake, he said firmly. These people are just scared because they don't understand. But look at what we've accomplished together. Look at how much we've both learned and grown. Zara turned to look at him, and he could see tears forming in her alien eyes. Do you really mean that? Absolutely, David said without hesitation. Working with you has been the best thing that's ever happened to me, both professionally and personally. Don't let a few narrow-minded people make you doubt that. The next few weeks were challenging in different ways. The government officials overseeing the project started putting pressure on them to work faster. They wanted results immediately, but good technology took time to develop. David and Zara found themselves working 12-hour days, trying to meet impossible deadlines. The stress was getting to both of them. David was drinking too much coffee and sleeping too little. Zara's skin had lost much of its glow, and she seemed tired in ways that David didn't think aliens could get tired. One particularly difficult evening, they had been working for 14 hours straight when their latest test failed spectacularly. The computer screen showed nothing but error messages, and all their hard work seemed to have been for nothing. This is hopeless, David said, putting his head in his hands. Maybe Dr. Williams was right. Maybe I'm not the right person for this job. Zara looked at him with concern. David, you're exhausted. We both are. When did we stop taking breaks? When did we stop enjoying our work? David realized she was right. In trying to prove themselves to the doubters, they had lost the joy that had made their partnership so special in the first place. I don't know, he admitted. I guess I wanted to show everyone how wrong they were about you, about us. But we were never trying to prove anything before, Zara said thoughtfully. We were just two friends working together because we enjoyed it. We were learning from each other, having fun, making discoveries. That night, David made a decision. The next morning, he marched into Dr. Williams's office and closed the door behind him. We need to talk, David said. If this is about your alien friend again, Dr. Williams started. Her name is Zara, David interrupted. And yes, this is about her. This is about the fact that you're so busy being afraid of her that you're missing the incredible opportunity we have here. David spent the next 20 minutes explaining everything they had discovered, all the breakthroughs they had made, and how Zara's unique perspective had solved problems that human engineers had been struggling with for years. She's not here to take over or trick us, David concluded. She's here to help us become better than we ever could have been alone. But if you keep treating her like an enemy instead of an ally, we're going to lose the most valuable partnership this project has ever seen. Dr. Williams sat quietly for a long moment. Finally, he sighed. You really believe in her, don't you? I believe in what we can accomplish together, David replied. And I believe that fear is a terrible foundation for scientific progress. When David returned to the lab, he found Zara working on their failed experiment from the night before. But instead of looking frustrated, she was humming quietly to herself, her skin glowing softly as she worked. I think I know what went wrong, she said with a smile. Want to try again? David smiled back, feeling like himself again for the first time in weeks. Always. 3 months later, David stood in the main conference room watching government officials and scientists from around the world test their completed project. The technology that he and Zara had developed together was working perfectly, translating alien systems into something humans could understand and use. But as impressive as the demonstration was, David knew the real success story was something much more personal. The room was buzzing with excitement as Dr. Williams explained how their hybrid technology could revolutionize everything from medical equipment to space exploration. David caught Zara's eye from across the room and smiled. Her skin was glowing brighter than he'd ever seen it, and her joy was infectious even from a distance. After the presentation, people crowded around Zara, with questions and compliments. The same colleagues who had whispered behind her back months ago were now eager to shake her hand and learn from her. David watched with pride as she patiently answered every question, her natural kindness shining through despite how badly some of these people had treated her. Incredible work, said Dr. Williams, approaching David with a genuine smile. I owe you both an apology. I was wrong to doubt your methods. We all learned something, David replied diplomatically, though part of him was still angry about how Dr. Williams had treated Zara. Later that evening, after all the officials had left and the congratulations had died down, David and Zara sat alone in their lab one last time. Tomorrow, Zara would be moving on to her next assignment, training other human-alien partnerships in different parts of the world. So, this is it, David said, feeling a sadness he hadn't expected. The end of our partnership. Not the end, Zara corrected gently. The beginning of something new. We've proven that our species can work together, learn from each other, create amazing things when we combine our different strengths. David nodded, but he still felt like he was losing his best friend. I'm going to miss working with you every day. I'll miss it too, Zara admitted. But think about what we've accomplished, David. It's not just the technology, though, that will help millions of people. It's what we've learned about friendship, about seeing the world through someone else's eyes, about choosing happiness even when things get difficult. David thought about how much he had changed over the past few months. The man who had sat nervously in that conference room, afraid to even look at Zara properly, felt like a completely different person now. You taught me how to notice things, he said quietly. Before I met you, I walked through life with my head down, just going through the motions. Now I see the beauty in ordinary moments, the magic in everyday things. And you taught me something even more valuable, Zara replied. You showed me what it means to choose joy, to fight for friendship, to stand up for what's right even when it's difficult. My people live for thousands of years, but most of us never experience the intensity of connection that humans are capable of. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both thinking about their journey together. Finally, David spoke up. Can I ask you something? That first day when you seemed so happy and excited about everything, was that real? Or were you just trying to make a good impression? Zara laughed, the musical sound filling the quiet lab. It was completely real. David, do you know what it's like to spend centuries in a world where everything is predictable, where every day is the same as the last? Coming to Earth was like waking up from a beautiful but boring dream. Even with all the problems we faced, the people who didn't trust you, the pressure from the government, the long hours and failed experiments, especially because of those things, Zara said with conviction. Those challenges made every success more meaningful, every moment of friendship more precious. On my planet, we don't have to work for happiness, so we don't appreciate it the way humans do. David understood what she meant now. His grandmother used to say that the best meals were the ones you cooked yourself, even if they didn't turn out perfect. The effort made them taste better. So what happens now? David asked. After you finish training other partnerships, will you go back to your planet? Zara was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, she finally said. Part of me misses home, misses my family and the peaceful life I used to have. But another part of me has fallen in love with the beautiful chaos of human existence. I've learned to find joy in uncertainty, to create meaning in temporary moments. Whatever you decide, I hope you'll stay in touch, David said. I know we can't work together every day anymore, but I'd like to think we'll always be friends. Always, Zara agreed, reaching over to squeeze his hand. David, promise me something. Anything. Promise me you won't go back to sleepwalking through life. Keep noticing the small wonders. Keep choosing happiness. Keep being the kind of person who sees possibilities instead of just problems. David smiled. I promise, and you promise me something too. What's that? Promise me you'll remember that you don't have to choose between your old life and your new one. You can take the best parts of both worlds and create something uniquely yours. Zara's eyes glowed with that familiar light, and David knew she understood. The next morning, David watched from the window as Zara's transport vehicle disappeared into the distance. The lab felt empty without her presence, but David didn't feel sad anymore. Instead, he felt grateful. He walked over to his desk and picked up his coffee mug, the one with the cartoon cat that Zara had found so charmingly human. As he took his first sip, he noticed how the steam spiraled upward in delicate patterns, each wisp following its own unique path toward the ceiling. For the first time in his life, David truly understood what it meant to find joy in the moment. Zara had given him more than just an incredible working partnership. She had given him a new way of being human, one that embraced wonder, celebrated friendship, and chose happiness regardless of circumstances. And that, David realized, was the most extraordinary gift anyone could receive.